Welcome to Stitchery Stories, where textile artists share their life in fabric and thread, inspiration, techniques, disasters and delights. And I'm Susan Reeks, enthusiastic embroiderer and textile art dabbler who also loves podcasting. So take a break and enjoy our light-hearted chat, and please share with your friends so they can enjoy it too. Hello and welcome today to our lovely guest, Eleanor Pigman. Hi, Eleanor.
Hi, Sue.
Lovely to speak to you today, Eleanor. And I've got a bio here from Eleanor, and I have to say my printer has printed it out all a bit wonky, so we'll see if I can read it or not. I have always been interested in transforming traditional craft. Before Eleanor started making art with beads, she was primarily a watercolour artist. She fell in love with the world of beading after doing an apprenticeship with a jewellery designer. The shop closed, and so she inherited thousands of seed beads. And she was then faced with the task of turning all of those beads into art. Her work began with portraits and then moved on to the marine world. As she states, the medium is limitless, and I love to try and create the impossible. Oh, there we are. After being published and receiving a congressional honour for keeping hope alive through art, she began to push the medium even further. Eleanor's work is all embroidered by hand with needle and thread on felt with beads. She combines several different traditional and non-traditional stitches to create a unique sculpture effect. Paper, fabric and mesh can also be found in her work. Eleanor Pigman is originally from New York City. She received her BFA from the Art Institute of Chicago and her Master's in Art Therapy from the University of Illinois in Chicago. She is self-taught embroidery artist, currently living in St. Petersburg, Florida. So welcome, Eleanor.
Thank you so much, Sue.
It's absolutely wonderful speaking to you today, and we've just been laughing because I'm sitting here in two fleece tops in my conservatory, and Eleanor sat there in a t-shirt saying she's too hot and she's got to get her air conditioning fixed. So there we are. Oh dear. So yes, the delights of speaking with people all over the world. So Eleanor, before we kind of delve in more detail into your stitchery story today, would you like to share with us what you're working on and what's got you excited?
Well, that's a great question, Sue, because if I'm not excited about what I'm doing, I don't want to do it. So now I am working on two pieces, one octopus and one fish, of course, ocean, and I'm trying to push the medium even further. So I've begun painting the felt that I bead on. So the beads kind of stand out more and use more various mediums such as paper with packaging tape on it, different types of fibers, and really using the beads less and using other materials to make the beads speak more. So I am super excited about that, although I'm worried a lot of my followers are going to think I'm crazy.
Now, I did notice you did a puffer fish, and that looked like it was blown up. You'd really got the curvature of an inflated puffer fish, and I think that must have been where you'd like coloured around the edges and stuff.
Exactly, and that puffer fish was the first test of painting the pelon first, almost in a watercolor style with acrylic paint, and trying to create that dimension with very few beads. But I think the beads speak louder once they're up against the paint. So it's almost more. And in that particular piece, there's also package taped Xerox paper for the little spikes and just more exploration of materials, which makes me so excited. I'm really glad you noticed that piece.
We see, I do go and look and spy on people and see what they're doing. And I thought, wow, I love that puffer fish. And my son had made one at school in art earlier in the year, where you get a balloon and put papier-mâché around it and stuff. And the way he'd painted it, it was just lovely. And we were going to do some spikes, which has reminded me we didn't. We were going to use the little wooden cocktail sticks to, so at the moment we've got a puffer fish without spikes. And whether we'll ever get spikes, I don't know, because I think we'd both forgotten about it. But that's just why I thought, oh, pufferfish. I thought, wow, that really looks 3D. And the effect that you'd got there with the paint and adding those beads in, as you say, sometimes less is more, isn't it?
And I just came back from Baltimore, where I hosted a 2-day workshop at the Bedeckled and Bedazzled with cross stitchers. And I think coming back from there made me feel very motivated to use other materials, because I was surprised that cross stitchers don't just use threads. They use every type of fiber, every type of bead, every type of sequence, and they really showed me how to integrate many, many materials into one piece. So I was teaching them, but they were really teaching me.
How wonderful, because quite often, a guest a couple of weeks ago was talking about how cross stitch is a really great way for people to begin, and it is, but yet sometimes people who carry on with a cross stitch can almost be looked down upon as if it's some kind of lesser art form because you're on a grid type fabric doing similar kind of stitches. But as we were just discussing, every form of embroidery and textile art, people are specializing or pushing the boundaries and trying different things. So it's really lovely to hear you so enthusiastic after coming back from teaching people who were doing cross stitch, and how you learnt and how they learnt as well. So it's a great place to start embroidery, but also, as you've seen, a great place to focus your creative endeavors onto as well. So that's really interesting to hear about that. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I was intimidated to teach these cross stitchers, thinking that they were going to be very kind of rigid, but they were so open-minded and excited about new mediums, new stitches, a new way of thinking, a new way of applying beads. It was wonderful.
Great. Well, that definitely is very exciting then. So I can see why you're excited about what you've been doing. So there's nothing more invigorating, is there, when you go somewhere and share and learn and just have a wonderful time doing it. So you come back just thinking, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and carry on. Brilliant. A bit in your bio there. So I'd be quite interested to delve into that a bit further as to how you got interested in embroidery and textile art, because it sounds like you came from quite a different path than a lot of us who learned from our grandmas, etc. So I want to just go into a bit more, Eleanor, about your story of how you got interested, who taught you, and what sort of things did you do?
Sure. Well, my story is a bit strange, but I love it because I think it speaks very much to where I'm at and who I am. I grew up in New York City, in Soho, in the 80s, where it was still a bit scary, but there were lots of artists there. And I think I was very inspired by people making art outside of the box. So that kind of stayed with me. Went to the Art Institute of Chicago, was very unhappy with my experience there because it was a multi-disciplinary school. You kind of left there not feeling good at anything.
Right, yes.
So I did a little watercolor, a little sculpture, a little bit of painting, I was all over the place. So I left there feeling not like an artist.
Right.
And I thought, oh boy.
What have I done?
So I knew I wanted art to be part of my life in some capacity. So I went and I got my master's in art therapy.
Oh.
So I was working as an art therapist for a very long time, needed some extra money, and saw a Craigslist ad to bead eyeglass holders at home for a jewelry artist in the Florida Keys. That's where I was living.
Yeah.
So at home, watching TV, I was beading these eyeglass holders, and I had never touched a bead in my life. We became friends, the jewelry owner and I walked into her shop one day. We had become friends, and she had packed everything up, and she looked at me and said, I am done with beading. Take all of my beads. We are shutting.
Oh, wow.
So I had all beads in my house thinking, what am I going to do with these? Maybe I should donate them, just get rid of them. But somehow I kept them. So Barack Obama was running for president the first time, and MoveOn.org was calling for art to excite about his candidacy. And I don't know how or what or I'm still blown away. I decided to embroider a portrait of him.
Oh,
And I had
right.
never done anything quite like that.
You'd never done a portrait and you decide to start with Barack Obama. Well done.
So I got this flimsy American flag from the dollar store, not lacy, stiff stuff or anything, strong to bead on, and beaded a portrait of him and submitted it, and was one of the 30 finalists out of like 10,000 people.
Wow.
The piece got published. It traveled. I got a congressional award from a congressman, keeping hope alive through art. People are calling me and saying, "Where's the rest of your work?" And I'm like, this is it. So I said, wow, I need to stick with this.
Yeah.
I was one of these artists that, did a little Fimo clay on the weekends, a little bit of watercolor, scrapbooking. And I said to myself, I want to master this. I'm going to put all that other stuff away, and I am only going to bead. So I did. And I made about 15 portraits. Princess Diana, Michael Jackson, Abraham Lincoln. And I think I was really trying to kind of master the medium through shading, through realism, through stitch directions. And I did. And then I finally realized nobody wanted to buy a portrait of Michael Jackson. And I got my first commission to do a fish. And ever since then, I have been an ocean artist for New York.
So, that's one of the best stories I've heard. That's absolutely fantastic. Oh, that's just so brilliant.
And it's funny because I ended up in Florida, and, people like the ocean here.
Yeah. Well, it's ultimately Florida's surrounded by ocean anyway, and it's nice warm ocean. You've got lovely tropical, beautifully coloured things to create in beads. Because let's face it, beads are lovely, aren't they? They're all sparkly and shiny and pretty colours, and it's just lovely. When I was looking at all the like the fish and the seahorses and all the things you've been doing, it's like, yeah, I think the combination of the beads and the way in which you create them works beautifully well. So there you are. You've gone from a portrait of Barack Obama to puffer fish and seahorses. Lovely.
And I think I've decided that I'm going to send that portrait to the library, his library.
Oh, how lovely.
I'm excited.
Yeah. No, that'd be absolutely brilliant, wouldn't it, doing that? Right. And so that really has filled out a lot of the kind of skeleton points there in your bio. So that's just the best story ever. I really love that, Eleanor. And as usual, I forgot to do all your links, so I'll do it now while it pops into my head. I'm like a goldfish today. Right. So the best places to find Eleanor, well, she's in lots of different places. So we'll start with her website. Now, remember, all these links will be on Eleanor's episode on stitcherystories.com. So don't worry, you'll be able to get them all there. But in a nutshell, she's on eleanor-pigman.squarespace.com. That's your website. You're on Facebook as Eleanor Pigman Seed Bead Artist. You're on Etsy as ePigman, and you're on Instagram as Pig Seed Bead. There we are. So we've got a variety of names for you.
Pig Seed Bead is my favorite. I got a phone call the other day. They said, "Hello, is this Eleanor Pigeon?" And I said, "Yes."
Oh dear, Pig Seed Bead. Yeah, that's lovely. I can remember that one. That's a nice, easy one to remember. Brilliant. Right, so that's all your links, and you'll find Eleanor showing her lovely work all over the place. Now then, we've gone through that brilliant story of how you got interested in your bead embroidery. So, have you had any particular inspirations over the years, Eleanor, and currently perhaps?
I am doing very unique work, and I don't feel like there's a lot of people that are using the medium as I am. So I don't look at a lot of art. I look at a lot of photography.
Yes, I should imagine you do.
Yes, I spend a lot of time laying in bed on Instagram looking through photographs, and I will see maybe 50 photographs and one will grab me deeply. And I will spend days thinking about it and how I want to put it together. So all of my work starts off from a real photograph.
Right, yeah.
And I my creativity blossoms through that real image and trying to create as much realism, depth, and playfulness within that photo. So it really comes from photography.
Yeah.
I go to the beach a lot. I don't really go under the water, but being at the beach feels amazing and also very much inspires me to promote the ocean.
Mm.
My best friend is a marine biologist, and she inspires me very much by sending me images and saying, Eleanor, when do you bead this?
Oh, that's fantastic, though, isn't it? Getting the images from your friends, inspiration that way. Well, see, that's a very lovely inspiration, is that, having a marine biologist as a friend and doing all your marine pictures. So what's the best one that she's sent you so far?
It was one of the first puffer fish, and it was a puffer. Oh, I'm sorry. It was called a box fish.
Oh, yes. Oh, they're really cute, aren't they, the box fish?
Yes. And it was one of the pieces that I just felt really worked when it was all beaded.
Mm.
An eye for detail. And I mean, these tropical fish are unbelievable. And I think coming from New York City, we didn't see anything colorful like that.
Yeah.
And the colors are just incredible. And I also think, an inspiration for me too, and this might be kind of strange, is, beading is so therapeutic. It's so calming. I'm inspired by the process of making art, going through the creative process, figuring out the beads, figuring out how it's all going to come together, and then that feeling of it being done and being proud.
Yeah. I to be honest, I haven't done much beading. The only time I have done any beading was with my Embroiderers Guild group. There's a small number of us, and we picked one design. It was crewel work, and it was the original design was monochrome. So we decided to do it in kind of monochrome in a colour. So I did mine shades of green, for example, and it was quite traditional crewel work embroidery, but in a modern kind of twist. And then there was lots of beads on it. So it was all kind of shiny threads and then various beads added on it. And I actually quite enjoyed doing that, but I don't know about therapeutic. Once you've dropped your beads about 10 times, I did get a bit fed up at one point, but and then I bought loads of little pots. So I ordered all my beads and put them all in little pots. And now my pots disappeared. Where the hell's all my pots gone? My son had nicked them all to do God knows what with. So, Mum, look what I found. All these, you didn't find it. You tipped all my beads out and nicked the little pots. So I was like, I was a bit stressed out about the beadwork in the end. But once I'd done it, it was like, yeah, I really, really enjoyed doing that. And again, it added a lot of texture and interest to the piece. It really brought it alive. So I can see how you're kind of well excited about beads. And I think it shows if you haven't got a son nicking your little bead pots, then it probably is quite therapeutic as well.
Or a cat sitting on your bead mat. That's
nightmare. In terms of techniques, then, you've already mentioned that you're now starting to broaden into different media and exploring, kind of pushing how you're going to do your work. But is there any kind of particular standout techniques that you do use, or things that you're starting to develop, and why do you like them so much, and developing them a bit more?
Well, I think a lot of us as artists kind of develop these rules for ourselves and our art. And I've got a bunch of them, and it's kind of strange that they've emerged because I like to typically break the rules. But for me, my technique is, I take this image of a piece of photography, I print it out, I use carbon paper.
Right.
And I sketch it, I transfer the image on felt, and then I always start at the eye.
Yeah, a few people have said that who do either people or animals. They start at the eye and then it kind of turns into a person or a thing. It has a personality once you've done your eye.
Yes, and I feel the same way. And the whole piece then is revolved around working off the eye.
Right.
So it feels almost like a cone,
Yeah.
And if the eye doesn't work out, I find that the piece isn't going to work out. So then you'll know early on to just cut it up or throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
So the eye, because we want to make eye contact with that person or the animal or the mammal or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The other thing I do in terms of technique is when I teach, the bead store owners usually laugh at me because the wonderful thing about my art is that I use so many different colors of beads, but
Yeah.
it's all terrible because when we're bagging up beads for kits, the 70 bags for a piece that's 5x7.
Yeah.
And so my rule is to use 3 or more shades of one bead color. So if there's 4 bead colors, there's going to be 3, 6, 9, 12 different shades.
Right. Yes.
That is kind of my rule of thumb. But, I'm self-taught. So, I didn't know any of the stitch names. I just had to kind of get in there with my bead needle and just kind of figure it all out. And I'm going to just say that it seems that my technique would be using many, many different shades of color, as well as different sizes of beads within one piece. So to have both of those experiences creates a lot of depth and texture and dimension.
Yeah, certainly the piece I did had a mixture of sizes. It might be the same colour, the same bead, but in 2 or 3 different sizes. The frustrating thing about that was sometimes you needed about 12, apart from you'd had to buy a packet of 500 or something. So yeah. I've got loads of beads left now. I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do with all these beads?
Absolutely. And it feels like a commitment. And that's one of the things I love about beading is in art school, when I was doing watercolor paper, we were instructed to go downstairs and buy a $20 piece of watercolor paper for your day. And if you messed up, you had to go back down and buy another one.
Oh.
Beads, you can just cut them up and reuse them, and they're cheap. It feels like there's a lot more freedom and not so much commitment. And I like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. So, yeah, you was talking there about making up kits. So what's the top secret then for handling loads of little beads? You must have developed yourself some good techniques for sorting those out.
You ask your boyfriend to do it.
Oh, best answer ever, that.
I don't have the patience to sit there and do it. I'm getting better, but it is definitely a task. You have to listen to rap music or something to keep you going.
Do you have like little funnels and little things like that to control where they go?
Lots of little scoopers, but he's still trying to master the best way to get these beads in a bag. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
The shop is doing very well, and kits have become a very, very big part of my life. And the story is funny how that started. I mean, I've been selling on Etsy for a long time, and I got this conversation from this woman who had followed me for a long time, and she said, "Oh, would you ever consider making a kit?" And I said, "No, I'm not in the kit business." And she kept coming after me, really great lady. Finally, she sent me $200, and she said, "I don't care how long it takes you. I want to learn how to bead the flamingo and the heron." And here I am faced with this check, and of course I wanted to deposit it. And so I did. And I made the kits, and now it's like my lifeline. And without her hounding me, I would not be in the place I am.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
It really is amazing, is that? Yeah. I mean, lots of guests, lots of artists do produce kits, and they seem to sell very well, and others have said the same kind of thing. It really helps broaden your income base as an artist by selling kits. And I think when you're doing something quite special as well, and something quite different, then people like to have a try and like to try it themselves. So they might do, like I was discussing with Sarah Rakestraw the other week from Golden Hind, and she was saying the same thing. A kit's a really good way for somebody to start and learn how to do something. And then again, it's back to developing that confidence, isn't it? And then you think, well, do you know what? I'm going to do my own pufferfish. Or I took a really nice picture of a starfish when I was on holiday. I'm going to give that a try. So I think that's really great, and well done to that woman for her persistence.
I know. Because I really thought, who would want to learn how to make this stuff? I was certain no one cares the process. They just want art for their bathroom in Florida, But I was wrong. And it's been, I mean, one of the most satisfying things to me is when somebody buys a kit, they experiment with the process, they learn how to do this crazy beading thing, and then they make their own piece. And then they send me a photo. The most wonderful feeling to just see how that one kit put them into a comfort zone where they felt like they could do their own.
No, that's really great. And it's just fabulous that we can share our skills in that way. And kits, I think, do that because not everybody can come to a workshop. People in England will be saying, oh, well, Sue, thanks. You've got somebody now from Florida. I'll never be able to go to one of her workshops or do anything like that. But at least you can get somebody's kit, can't you? And you can learn. And it's so much easier these days to, well, with videos and all the rest of it, to be able to put together an interesting package for people so people can learn how to do things and then share. And that's a lovely thing, isn't it? Seeing the work that people have created and bothered to share back with you.
Love it.
Given that you've had a really interesting route into what you're doing now, is there anything in particular that you'd say so far has been a high point for you, Eleanor, in terms of your beading, embroidery and textile art so far?
Well, the Obama thing, I mean, I still can't get over it. I mean, when I tell the story, it almost freaks me out because it was so perfect. Well, I love making art and I will for the rest of my life. And my satisfaction comes from making new pieces that I feel have deepened and become more exploratory with materials. But I got to say, my high point has been discovering a part of myself that I never knew existed, and that is that I'm a teacher.
Wow, yeah.
And I was invited, I don't know, maybe it was 5 years ago, to Berkeley, California to teach for a weekend at a bead shop that I used to buy beads from. And I had never taught, and they called me and said, hey, Eleanor, you want to come out? And I said, sure. And they said, you taught before, right? And I said, yeah. I was so nervous. I went out. We had a great weekend, but they started picking up on stuff because I didn't know what the backstitch was, right? I was explaining what it was, but they're like, Eleanor, are you trying to explain the backstitch? Oh, yeah, that's it. So then after the 2 days, I told them, I said, I did a little white lie, but thank you so much for having me. And they were delighted. And I walked out of there and I had no idea how good it felt. And I just walked out of there and literally screamed on the street, I am a teacher. So now I teach at least twice a week. And they fly me around to go to different places to teach for the weekend. And it's just, it invigorates me. It gets me feeling excited about making art. I love meeting these different embroidery artists. It's just lovely.
I was just about to say, you don't do things by half, though, do you? You started off your bead embroidery by doing Obama's portrait, and then there you are, the first time that you decide you're going to go and do a bit of teaching. First of all, you're the other side of America, so that in itself, it's not like the bead shop round the corner, is it? No, you had to fly all the way across America. So how long does that take to fly there? A number of hours, isn't it?
5 to 6 hours.
Yeah. So that's a definite trend I've picked up with you. Just go for it and just go big or don't bother.
And a few years ago, I got this email from Etsy saying, would you like to teach for us? And I thought, what? And said, well, we see that, you're doing well on Etsy. Can we train you to teach a 5-week class to people who want to be on Etsy and teach them how to get online, how to title their pieces, do photography, tag, etc. So I did, and I teach that several times a year. And that's another huge, huge high point is watching these artists and craftspeople take that plunge of selling their work and helping them be successful.
Yeah, well, that's just brilliant as well, because Etsy, like lots of these other, online marketplaces, can seem so overwhelming. And it's like, well, there's so many people on there. How is anybody ever going to find my stuff? But it's like with online stuff in general. In most cases, you really only need to make certain specific actions and you're already ahead of 90% of the people who are on there. Push it a bit more and you will get found and you will start to have some success. So, and that works in not just in Etsy, but in anything to do with being online. Even podcasting, you look and say, oh, there's 500,000 podcasts. Why would anybody listen to mine? Well, you do a bit of extra work and put some effort into it, and people will find me and people are interested. So yeah, you haven't to be overwhelmed and let it get you down, but that's brilliant that you've been able to pass on your experience and the fact that you were doing well, and Etsy had noticed you and had come to you, and now you can help others.
It is.
I just love online teaching.
And it's fun to tell, my story along with the curriculum for Etsy.
Yeah.
And show them where I messed up or when I did well and when I didn't know what to do. And, I mean, that example of getting that conversation from the woman about the kits, is perfect because I wouldn't have known what the next step was unless my audience was telling me what they wanted.
Yeah.
And that happens on Etsy a lot where, maybe you're not selling things, but you're being steered in the right direction.
That's interesting. And I don't think I've had anybody really talk very much about Etsy in particular. It's a place where lots of people are, but I'm sure people will find it very interesting how your experience has shaped another income stream for you. You've discovered that you really love teaching as well, and then other people can benefit by getting their Etsy act together as well. So I'm sure that would be very appealing for people. And is it reasonably easy to find your Etsy course?
It's the whole shebang. It's actually getting your store open, which is a huge feat for most people, right?
Brilliant.
Then, how do you name your shop? How do you describe your work? How do you title your work? How do you tag your work? How do you price your work? How do you pay yourself?
Yes.
Right. That's a big one. They're always like, what? You got to put a profit margin in there? Mm-hmm. How to take good photographs. That is a huge one. I mean, I developed my own course called Mastering the Art of Smartphone Photography as a Marketing Tool for Artists, because if you don't have good photographs, it's, you're going nowhere, even if it's the best piece in the world.
Yeah.
So, and then the last course of the 5-week series is social media.
Yeah.
Use social media correctly in the day of age where Zuckerberg is, taking down your posts and get noticed. So that's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I'm sure lots of people will be hunting you out now and picking your brains about that subject and looking out for your Etsy course as well. Fabulous. Right. Well, you know me, I love online marketing. I could talk about that all day long, but we'd better we'd better move on. What I wanted to do was maybe move on to how you organise your creative time, because we don't always feel very creative, do we? So do you have any hints and tips or particular things that you do to keep your creativeness going when actually you'd rather not be creative that day?
I would rather be creative every day, but I can't because I have two small children and because I have a business where I need to be making kits and, responding to emails, etc. I have something called Fun Friday.
Fun Friday, that sounds good already.
So all week, I'm planning on what is going to be fun on Friday. And that is usually a photograph that I've screenshotted on Instagram that I'm planning on creating on Friday.
Right.
So my whole week, I'm thinking about ideas. I'm thinking about ways to put things together, maybe even pulling out bead colors to dive in on Friday for Fun Friday. And that keeps me going. Often I'll get kind of frustrated with building kits or something, and I'll just say, forget it, and go work on a piece that maybe is unfinished.
Yeah.
Very rare for me to have anything unfinished.
Yeah.
Eats away at me. But that is definitely kind of how I organize my creative time.
Do you know, that's a brilliant idea as well. You've given it a name, so it exists. It's not just some random idea. It's Friday and it's going to be fun. And what I really like about it is that you're planning what you're going to do, because I know for me, sometimes I'm thinking, right, special treat this afternoon, Sunday afternoon, I might have been gardening or something. Right, it's 3:00, stuff it. I'm not doing anything else. I'm going to sit and I'm going to do some of my embroidery. And then I sit there and think, right, what am I going to do? Which piece shall I pick up? And then, oh, no, I haven't got that. I haven't got that thing. I forgot to order that. Or then you just like, you can feel the enthusiasm waning rapidly because I haven't got myself organised. So I think that's a brilliant way to do that, is plan it so that when you actually start on the Friday, you've got everything all organised, you know what you're going to do. Makes such a difference, doesn't it, Eleanor?
It really.
Yeah, I do that in my work, but then have I applied that to my embroidery? No. So that's something that's given me a kick up the bottom, hasn't it, to get myself organised better for my embroidery.
And, I always thought creativity was this thing, you're sitting, on the couch and all of a sudden you're kind of struck by lightning and all of a sudden you get up and you create a puffer fish.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it doesn't work that way. Creativity takes thought, pre-planning, work. I love it, but it's not that bolt of lightning that I was told it would be in art school.
Yeah, we see there's art school and there's real life, isn't there, I think? And lots of people have said the same thing, that it's a different world, it's a different thing altogether, is coming out of art school and then thinking, right, okay, I've got to make my living at doing this now, so there's going to have to be some changes, and how am I going to do it? So, but I absolutely love that approach. That's brilliant. I'm so glad I asked you that question. Right. Well, crikey, as I say every damn week, here we are. We're running out of time. So, just quick roundup for us there, Eleanor. Do you have any particular plans or projects that you're excited about that you just want to quickly share with us at the end as we wrap up today?
I have a bunch of bookings for classes where I'm traveling, and I'm excited for that experience just because of coming out of Baltimore and feeling so inspired. But, I went to Walmart and I bought all these crazy materials, which I haven't allowed myself to do in a long time because I was so committed just to the beadwork.
Yeah.
So now my studio is just filled with all this random stuff. And I look forward to sharing with everybody, what's going to happen, because I have no idea, but I'm excited about it. Yes.
Brilliant. Right. Well, thank you so much, Eleanor. It's been absolutely wonderful speaking to you today. You've come up with some really good stories for us and some inspiring information and ideas for us all to take away as well. So thank you so much. Enjoy your lovely Florida afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A pleasure to speaking with you today.
Oh, it's been brilliant, Eleanor. Thank you very much. If you liked this episode and want to hear more, then please join the Stitchery Stories fan club so you can get an email when a new episode is released. It's a quick and easy way of listening and of keeping up with any news and offers from our lovely guests. Please visit stitcherystories.com to join the fan club. Of course, if you have iTunes, then subscribe there to automatically get new episodes. And why not leave us a review and rating whilst you are there? So that is the end of our Stitchery story for today. So keep stitching, keep smiling, and keep creating your very own Stitchery stories.